This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. Auburn University is known for its athletics. We know that. We talk about football, basketball, baseball, and so many other varsity sports with what they'd be called. But what is often forgotten is there are many sports on campus that are what are considered club teams that are just as awesome and just as valuable to take in and get to know each and every year. And we have the privilege today on E2C Network to talk to an individual from one of those club teams. If you're a fan of football and the rough and tumble of that, I can imagine that you might be interested in this sport as well, the sport of rugby. We're going to be discussing that, getting to know the program and an individual from that program. So today on E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience, I'm happy to welcome Nick Prather. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much. I've had the opportunity to talk to Nick a few times, get to know him and know his passion for not only the sport, but this club team as well. And to school me personally, but hopefully some of these listeners out there as well that need to know a little bit more about the sport and the club team. So, Nick, first of all, let's just give you an opportunity to just talk a little bit about yourself, your background, and then maybe how you're connected to the sport.
Yeah, Kyle. So I'm Nick Prather. Like you said, I'm a fourth-year veterinary student at Auburn. I started playing the game at a Catholic Jesuit high school in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is where I'm from. From there, I was recruited by the University of Kentucky to attend there to play rugby as well as pursue a degree in animal sciences. And then, if I'm not sure if you know this, but kids from Kentucky go to Auburn for veterinary school. That's been a thing since like a contractual agreement with the state since the 70s. So that's what brought me to Auburn. I've played the game in many places for many teams, high school, kind of like basketball with the AAU programs. Rugby has a similar, or baseball, same thing. Rugby has a similar setup where, you would play for our high school teams, play for Midwest teams, and then, of course, play for, all-American teams, all-state teams, stuff like that. But then as far as my international experience, when I was in college, I was lucky enough to be sent to New Zealand for a summer to train with one of the professional teams there. They have it was called the International High Performance Unit, where I was one of 20 kids selected to go play and train in New Zealand in Christchurch, which is home of the Crusaders, which essentially is like the Patriots of the professional league over there. And then everybody knows the All Blacks, or kind of when people think about rugby, they know the New Zealand All Blacks. So the All Blacks are an all-star team, just like our Olympic basketball team is an all-star team between the NBA teams. The All Blacks are an all-star team between what's called Super Rugby, which is the New Zealand, Australian, South African league. Obviously, the All Blacks are an all-star team of the 7 or 8 New Zealand teams, and the Crusaders are hosting this camp are like the Patriots of that league. Wow. So, like, they always win, and 1/3 of their players play for All Blacks. So anyway, they hosted the camp, and I was one of 20 kids, like I said. 10 of us were American, and then 10 were from all over the world. I can say I have a friend in just about every country, just about that people would want to go to throughout Europe and Africa. And then I funny enough, I'm one of I think 2 guys of that whole camp that actually aren't playing professionally to some extent.
Wow.
So right, but yeah, so that's a little bit about me. When I came to Auburn, I didn't really think that much about coaching. It was actually something that I just got into because granted, veterinary school is tough. I love it. I love it. I have no reason to complain. But I needed something. I'd never been in school without participating in a sport, and unfortunately, Auburn University's rugby football program has had some years of success, but those years have been few and far between, with most of them coming in the late 90s and early 2000s, and then as far back as the 70s. So there was this gap between about 2010 to pretty much 2020, where the team wasn't necessarily super successful. So when I first came out, my expectations were were not the highest. I mean, not even for myself, considering I had never coached anything. But Auburn being the great institution that it is, there were a lot of kids at the university that had played the game before, either in grade school or high school or both. That unfortunately, their freshman year did not come out for the team because of what they would say lack of organization. And then sophomore year was COVID, and then of course, so then junior year was their first year coming out, and as well as some freshmen. So yeah, we have kids from everywhere in the country. But yeah, no, I mean, as far as me, that's my background. I played at, like I said, University of Kentucky, and we had a lot of success there. Our school, I guess I should mention, when I was there, the school was transitioning into what they are now, which is a semi-varsity program,
Okay.
because of Title IX. But what it means is, like, we were on scholarship. They obviously pay for the whole New Zealand trip. The coaches are contracted by the campus recreation department. They have a budget. They recruit heavily. So I wanted to bring some of those organizational skills and organizational aspects of the program that I used to be part of to Auburn. So that's a little bit of maybe a long-winded version of my involvement in the game, but that's what brought me to Auburn.
No, that's a great background for yourself, and obviously a little bit into the program as well, by way of Kentucky. And yeah, I was aware of the whole dynamic between vet school students and Auburn and all that stuff. Obviously, we're very fond of our vet school here, and would argue that it's the best, if not one of the best, in the South alone. But getting back to the sport of rugby, you brought up some big things that I personally am aware of, even as someone who's not, very well versed in the sport. I knew about the All Blacks. I knew about New Zealand being kind of a mecca for the sport, and it being a very big international sport. So it sounds to me like you have brought not only organizational skills from your previous stint playing at Kentucky, but also you have brought a wealth of experience that goes beyond the United States internationally. And so you've seen a lot of how rugby is played at all different levels and all different systems. And it sounds to me like you're pretty well equipped to tackle this program and continue to build it up, because as you kind of laid out, it's had an up and down history in terms of success, and maybe had some more success in the past. And maybe COVID was a great way to restart things in a sense. So where is your, give me a little background on the program as we sit right now. How do we feel about things? What's the outlook of the team? Anything that just comes to mind about rugby club team at Auburn?
Right. Yeah. Okay, Kyle. So yes. So the team right now, I guess we'll talk about if I'll talk about the team a couple of years ago when we took over. Like I said, I thought I was becoming onto a team that had maybe two or three players that have played before. And I'll never forget and admittedly, as a coach, I mean, personally, I think that, the coaches who I'll talk about a little bit, but the coaches I have around me that I'm so lucky to have around me are certainly better coaches than I. But and admittedly, I'm not the best coach at teaching the game. Some of my other coaches are, to some of the new kids that we have come out, which we love. Personally, I am not. So I'm more of a, step 5 to 6 kind of guy, not so much a step 0 to 4. So that's what I thought I was going to have to do at this program. So I was, admittedly nervous. And I'll never forget it wasn't the first practice. It was the second practice. First practice was a little bit more introductory and just fitness, and actually stormed, so we had to leave early. But the second practice, I had all the kids around, we had about 30 kids out there, and had them all around the circle. I was just going over the basic laws of the game. So the first rule of rugby is they're called laws, not rules. They say back in England, Rugby England, which is a town outside of London, it was a group of lawyers after, each school had their own individual game, almost like gym class. And each school played a little bit differently. Well, in the town of, some games are more similar to soccer, and in the town of Rugby, they have their own version of it. And the legend is that that there was a group of lawyers that came, people with a law background, that said that they want these to be called laws, not rules. But and we can get into that, the history. There's a couple other legends as far as the start of the game, that some are true, some aren't. But like I said, I thought I was have 2 or 3 kids that played before, and so I have everyone in a group in a circle, and about at the 50-meter line, and I'm going over the basic laws of the game. And I'll never forget, look, at this point, I'm nervous. I'm stuttering, all this other stuff. And I'm looking at these kids, and they just look so disinterested. I see like people shrugging their shoulders, kind of rolling their eyes, not disrespectfully, but just like, what
Right.
are we doing? Uh, and it dawned on me. I'm like, you know what? This program hasn't really been around in 2 years. I'm just going to see how many kids that I have right now that played before. Well, I said, well, how many of you guys have played before? And sure enough, about 26 hands went up. So when I thought I was gonna have 2 or 3 kids that played before, it was more like I had 2 or 3 that have not. So immediately I'm like, all right, we're going into a 1-3-3-1 with a certain offensive set, and we're gonna do a little bit more advanced stuff. So I like to think that I got very, very lucky coaching this program. And having that, I used to always say, like, it's almost like God wanted me to be there, because it seemed like every week we had a new kid come out, and he was not new to the game. Like, he had been playing since at least fourth, fifth, sixth grade, at the very latest high school, um, from all states all over the country. Because that's what Auburn does. It recruits great people from all over the country.
Well said.
So the team ended up, that first year, the team had consistently been last in the SEC D2. The SEC divided for rugby. SCRC is what they call Southeastern Collegiate Rugby Conference. They moved when I was at University of Kentucky. My junior year, they decided to break it up in D1, D2. So the semi-varsity teams, which at the time and for the most part still are, Kentucky, South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama at the time. They're kind of revamping their stuff. They just hired a new coach who's excellent. But at the time, they were excellent too. Had 2 guys that are now professionals. And then Kennesaw State, same thing. They're a little bit rebuilding, but they moved them to D1, and Clemson's actually moved into the SCRC for rugby. And they put the teams that didn't have the opportunity scholarship, didn't have a bunch of alumni and sports boosters like they do, didn't have the ability to recruit kids from high school camps starting as a sophomore like I was when I started talking to my coaches at UK. They moved them down to Division II. So Auburn was in the Division II of the SCRC, and they had consistently finished last. Teams like Memphis, Georgia Tech had consistently finished first. And so we went into that season. Some people knew I was coaching. Having coaching in the same conference I played in, I knew a lot of people within the conference, and a lot of people knew me. Some for good reasons, some for not. I was a little bit of an outlandish player at UK. I like to think I've calmed down in my coaching days, but there were people that, some people were excited to hear I was coaching, and, some people were excited because they're proud of me, and some people were excited because they couldn't wait to, get back at me for some
Get the
things
shot
I
at
did
you.
play.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So that team, we rolled in and into the season, and nobody knew anything about us. Nobody knew that we were going to be good. They assumed Auburn was just going to be the same old Auburn of the past 10 years. Which was known for really good athletes and no rugby IQ and no consistency, no organization, no organizational offense or defensive structure, just athleticism. That, and if want to know one thing about the sport of rugby, it's IQ beats athleticism every time in the game. The whole game is a chess match, which makes coaching it fun. So anyway, we surprised a lot of teams that year. During the regular season, we won. We only lost 1 game. We tied Georgia Tech. Unfortunately, rugby's a European sport, so there's ties, which I'm not a fan of. But
amen, brother. I feel you on that one.
it's yeah. But then we lost to Memphis by 1 try. So in rugby, the scoring similar to football, except a try, which is a touchdown, is worth 5, and then the extra points worth 2, and you kick it from where you touch it down. It's actually why football is called a touchdown, because they used to follow the same rules. But
yep.
Anyway, we lost to Memphis, but then we managed to get a playoff spot, first time since 2013, I believe, for Auburn. And we beat Georgia Tech on Friday night. With 30 seconds left, we scored in front of a packed crowd, packed house at Auburn at the Sportsplex on Len Morrison. And then we rolled into Memphis, the team we lost to, and the game wasn't close. So then we got a spot in the USA Rugby Division II National Championship game against Montana State, which, I mean, when people think of the state of Montana, people playing rugby, you think of guys' legs that are the size of tree trunks and a bunch of kids that are, used to climbing up and down mountains all day. And, I mean that respectfully, of course. It's
I understand.
Staff we highly respect, but that's exactly what they were. They had a fly half and a fullback, which fullback in rugby is completely opposite of what it is in American football. But it's more of the guy that catches all the kicks, almost like free safety, but catches all kicks and can kick back. Their fullback was nationally renowned. But we ended up winning that game too and won the D2 national championship on the USA Rugby side. So that surprised a lot of people. It surprised the school. It got us a lot more support. So then last year, luckily we only lost 3 kids that year. Now they were 3 extremely good players that were actually pursued by professional programs, and one of them, Nico Spino, ended up being our backs coach, our backline coach. He actually played professionally the game of sevens, which is 7-on-7 is the form of rugby that's in the Olympics. That's more of like a 3-on-3 basketball versus regular rugby is 15-on-15. But he played that. But so we only lost 3 guys. So the next year, we actually switched divisions. We moved to there's 2 collegiate divisions in rugby. The college landscape of rugby, there's been some controversy as far as USA Rugby's role, especially among smaller schools. So they actually folded and restructured. And when they restructured, a group of other people went and made an organization called National Collegiate Rugby, which stole a lot of schools, rightfully so. So we actually moved into that division, which is a little bit different of a setup. Instead of a BCS style, more number 1, number 2 play for a national championship,
Sure.
it's more of a FCS style of a playoff round of 16. We won the conference again. We were ranked as high as number 5 in Division 2 nationally. And unfortunately, we lost in the first round of the round of 16 to a good Loyola team. Very well coached, but and let's just say there were some injuries that had, the coach staff could have been better, players could have been better. Some injuries, some issues with players being able to play due to previous school arrangements that not of my players' choices,
Sure.
but the school's choices, which is one of the frustrating things of being a club program. So anyway, so that brings us to this year. So because of some of those issues, the team is actually independent right now. So the team is in limbo. So to finally answer your question, the program, Auburn being as big of a school as it is, the league would like us to move up to Division 1. The problem with that is our program is not financially ready for that. We have great alumni. I love them. We even have alumni there in the Sports Booster program. Howard Porter is one of our top donors, and he's Porter Properties. You go around Auburn, you see Porter Properties everywhere. Howard's a big donor to the other sports programs as well. A real estate guy locally here. But I always say, Kentucky, Tennessee, Clemson, South Carolina, they have 10 Howards. They have 10 Mr. Porters.
Wow.
They have budgets that are significantly higher than ours. So right now the team is in limbo. We're playing independent D2. So what that looks like is we'll play a team Division 2 SCRC schedule, and then we'll play a bowl game at the end of the year. And our goal is to create the infrastructure with the school and the alumni to develop a program that has the funding and the financial resources to do some of those things that those Division 1 teams get, as well as a better relationship with the school, which is progressing slowly but successfully. To move up to the division where a school like Auburn should be at.
Yeah.
That being said, we were able to recruit 10 freshmen. We don't have a whole lot of money to give. What we do though is we use externship opportunities with our alumni, and possible housing situations that we can help the kids with. And we were able to get 10 kids from all around the country to come here to Auburn. Not to mention the school sells itself, where them and their parents were pretty set on 2 or 3 schools, and really the only thing that was different between us and those other schools is the way that the rugby program treated them as far as a hospitality standpoint, and what we could offer their sons as far as development is not only as players but as young men. So That's what the season looks like right now. The team's looking strong. We started practicing last week, and yeah, so we're looking to go continue the tradition of winning that we've had the last 2 years, and see what the offseason brings as far as the development of the program from the financial and logistical side of things.
Well, you gave us a great breakdown of the most recent history, especially of what's been going on with the team. And it sounds like, as with most things, this should be a call to the Auburn family to come out and support in general, whether it's to watch games. But is there a way that just fans in general or people that are maybe interested in supporting the rugby team can support them financially?
Yeah, yeah, yes, sir. So if you go to our Instagram, it's just Auburn Rugby. There is a link on there. Well, there's two links. There's one link for our team shop. We get a little bit of Victory Designs, a local company in Opelika, great Christian ran company, Auburn people, wonderful people over there. They make a lot of our gear because they have the Auburn licensing. Obviously, they do a lot of fraternity and sorority stuff here at Auburn as well. Um, and then there's another link that just has our main bank account that you can donate to, and I can provide that with you after this interview. But yeah, so I mean that's our primary mode of donations right now. We're working on coming up with fundraisers and stuff like that, but that'll probably be taken care of more in the off season. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, yeah, that link is available on our Instagram.
Yeah, we'll make sure we get some of those things available here in connection with this podcast episode. That's great to hear. And what I would say to the Auburn family that's listening to this now, as you've done on so many occasions, whether it's with varsity sports, whether it is with some school that you have a connection to at Auburn, or whether it's some semi-pro team. I have seen semi-pro team. We've seen a semi-pro basketball league literally adopt an Auburn moniker and a logo and stuff because they saw the connection to former players. So that is my call to the Auburn family, is that if you are a fan of the game of rugby and want to see this team continue to flourish, this program continue to grow like it needs to be and should, as you so well pointed out, please support the team as you can. With our time left, I do want to kind of give us an actual little preview of what to look forward to this season. You kind of gave us what the team and the program looks like at the start of this, but let's look at the schedule a little bit here. And just briefly, let me run through it for folks, the ones I have listed right now. Coming up first, on September 2nd, we've got at Spring Hill College, September 9th versus Mississippi State, September 16th at Georgia Tech, September 23rd versus Tennessee Tech, September 30th at Kentucky, and that will be played at Kennesaw State. Saturday, October 21st at Ole Miss, October 28th at Memphis, November 4th at home versus Valdosta State, and then obviously a bowl game to be announced November 11th through the 18th that week. Is that still the schedule as of right now?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
It's worth noting all the games are at 12 Central Time.
12 Central Time. And great even to bring up here, you mentioned it very quickly, but I want to be sure that fans know where to come watch you guys when you're on campus. Where specifically is the location located?
So it's at 811 Lem Morrison Drive. It's at the Auburn Sportsplex. You'll see the goalpost. It's right next to the AGR house and some of the other fraternity houses on that little road on Lem Morrison.
Excellent. So that's where you need to come and check the games out. What I often tell to people is when you're coming to campus for a specific event, say it was a soccer match or something, make sure you check out what else is going on, not just the varsity level, but the club level, because there's a lot more to take in at Auburn than just your event that you're coming to. I always say that Auburn is best experience when you can do a lot of things all at once and get the full Auburn experience. And this is a great example to do that. So really briefly, give me, when we just broke down that schedule, you got names like Spring Hill, common names like Mississippi State, Georgia Tech, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Memphis. Who are the teams, maybe the games that you would point out, Nick, that fans should be paying attention to, looking for the results, but maybe looking to attend to?
Yeah, Kyle. So I know right off the bat that September 23rd against Tennessee Tech, that's our alumni. We're trying to make it an alumni weekend, but also a parents weekend for our program. And then, so our main rivalries, unfortunately this year, are again, well, every year, but unfortunately this year they're both away, but it's Georgia Tech and Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two heavyweights of the program. Obviously Georgia Tech's a little bit closer than Memphis is. And last year, we had them home for both games, just like we will next year. But so as far as this year goes, though, Yeah, I mean Mississippi State's they're a well-funded program. They're kind of on the upswing. Um, I would say that, but the most fun game for fans is probably that September 23rd Tennessee Tech game. Just because we'll have a lot more people there. We tend to get a big following from the local fraternities on campus
Yeah.
because they know some of our players. So yeah, I would say yeah, unfortunately, our two strongest games are away this year. It's unfortunate how that works out.
Right.
Because last year the home game against Memphis was a big game for us, and we ended up winning pretty big too. Um, very very big, and we had a large following. But that Saturday, September 23rd game against Tennessee Tech, I'd say that would be the game that fans should look to come to if they want to see the full Auburn rugby experience.
It's got kind of it sounds to me like a homecoming type of feel. If it's alumni weekend, that type of
Yes,
everybody coming back together and kind of feeling all the good stuff about obviously your school, but your program as well. So Tennessee Tech, September 23rd is a big one that he points out to you. The big rivalry, what I heard, Georgia Tech, not too far from actually where I reside. And it's at Georgia Tech. But let me tell you, folks, I know I'm speaking to all the Atlanta folks and surrounding areas and suburbs, not too far outside of the perimeter of Atlanta. That's not a far drive. I just went to a volleyball match at Georgia Tech yesterday as of recording the show. So I know how easily it is to get down there, how easy it is to get on to the campus and check that out. So come support the team out at Georgia Tech, especially if they're as good as a program as Nick has been talking about right now. You know that's going to be a good match that you don't want to miss out. Obviously, Memphis a little bit further away, like you pointed out, but I know that we've got a good contingency of Auburn fans out there as well. So those are a couple of the games that you want to look for, some opportunities to watch this team, to see how this year continues in that progression that you already laid out for us, Nick. So with maybe final thoughts, what are some last minute things or anything about the season, the schedule program that you'd like to impart upon the audience?
Yeah, Kyle. So, a big thing with the game is it's a fun game to watch because it's free flowing. There's not a whole lot of stoppages. It's two 40-minute halves with a 15-minute halftime. The scoring is similar to football, where it's 5 for a try, like a touchdown, and 2 for the extra point. And then a field goal if the other team, we call a penalty kick or a kick for goal. That's 3, just like football. A lot of the laws are similar. It's a fun game to come watch because it is. I mean, it's 95 minutes total if you include the halftime. And there's not a whole lot of stoppages unless for injury. And it's a fun, quick day activity that you can go watch something exciting. Admission's free. That's a big thing. Admission is free as a club sport. And it's something that we're gaining support, and we can promise it's going to be entertaining. It's not a boring sport to watch.
Yeah.
It's a very very exciting sport to watch. And then it's a family friendly event. You can bring you can bring your family, your kids, your girlfriends, your wives, everybody's involved. It's something that your grandma down to the youngest child in your family will enjoy to watch. And yeah, I mean, I think that's we appreciate the support, and it's a fun thing to come see an up and coming program.
And that's the thing that I want to take away from this too for folks is it's really good to jump on board when a program's on the rise. Obviously, it's very valuable. You can jump on at any point, but this is a good time to start investing in broadening your Auburn experience outside of what we started off talking about this episode, the big 3 sports, and even beyond that. This is a good opportunity to jump in, support them in person, support them from afar, support them maybe financially, because Auburn Rugby, as should anything that has the Auburn name attached to it, should be the best in the country because we are the best little family. We're a big family in the country as it is.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention the assistant coaches I have on my staff that make our team go around and be as successful as it is. So we have our associate head coach, Dale Hartman. Dale Hartman is a PhD student in biosystems engineering at Auburn University. He is South African. We run a very South African system, both on offense and defense at Auburn University. My collegiate coaches were South African, so we very much so value him. He was actually the captain of Arkansas State's team, where he came to the United States to play at Arkansas State, a varsity program. when they beat Life University out of Atlanta, which is historically the best team in the country and a feeder team for the national team, and all the pro teams. And then in Lindenwood, who's another varsity school that these two teams used to run the divisions, and he was the captain of the team that beat them. Then we have Jason Marks. Jason Marks is another South African born kid he's my age, but guy that is here. He's one of the regional managers for the new Barley Hotel. He graduated in international hospitality and originally worked at University Hotel, and now has worked his way up to working at the Laurel Hotel. So if you're ever there, ask for Jason Marks. And he is more of a position-specific coach. And then we have Sam Parks, who is the old man in the group, but he's young at heart. He's technically we call him our team president, our team GM, I guess you could call him. He is a lawyer by trade for one of the local alumni we have here. And he is from California, which we all know or a lot of people know is a rugby mecca for the United States. He went to UCLA for law school, did some rugby there, and then actually went to Oxford in England for his maritime law degree, which is the type of law he practiced primarily, and played and coached in England as well, which, as we know, is where rugby was founded. And so, yes, without those coaches, our program wouldn't be where it's at. The same thing with what I said. I felt like God wanted me to do it, because all the players that came out, all these players that played before. I mean, the same thing with my coaching staff. I thought it was just going to be a one-man show, and instead I have those three wonderful coaches that helped me out and honestly do better than I did. So that's all I just wanted to add. I appreciate your time, Kyle.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us, talking about a little bit about your history with the game, your leadership of this program, what we've got to look forward to this upcoming season, and we're going to watch earnestly to see how it continues going forward. So good luck to you, the team. Thank you so much for joining us. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.